through the tournament and looking forward to a great tournament tomorrow. So I'm going to turn it back over to Glenn, get it to our speaker, and then we can get it back to get the DJ. Let's give our DJ a round of applause. You know, he's touching the lives, does a lot of great events across the country here in Nashville. Got a chance to meet Robin, and he's doing a great job as well, and we'll get him going again. So I'm going to bring Glenn back up. Introduce our speaker, who is a former player as well. So he has a great message for us. He's one of our sponsors, and only take 15, 20 minutes or so, and then we'll get back to the evening. The sun is going down. The glare is cooling off. Might get a little breeze up here, so it'll be a different little vibe. So looking forward to it. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Al. Yeah, isn't this something else? I mean, this is a pretty cool spot. But before I bring Jeff up, I do want to say that on the tables out there, we've got our QR code for donations for our NFL charities, Caring for Kids. And whenever I started doing this work years ago, I didn't plan on getting into this to stand up some kids' hospitals and help kids, but that ended up being what happened, right? And so I just want to say real quick, JC Pearson came out with a group, brought a group out to our hospital in Kansas and saw the kids out there, and just really appreciate that. So I want to give JC and a hand for that. It was just an amazing experience for all the kids that we were helping out there. And like I said, I didn't get into this thing to help a bunch of kids, but whenever you have the opportunity to change these kids' lives, and you see them like show up for the first time knowing that somebody cares about them, that they've got a home, right? It's just phenomenal work. I can't get enough of that. And so I'm really excited to align with the NFL Alumni Charities and the Caring for Kids piece, because to have a group like this sitting here in this room that really are reaching out to help kids, that's an amazing thing. And we see kids that come into our place in Kansas all the time, and they have no family, and they've gone years without anyone giving them a second thought or treating them like a human being. And we get the chance to love on them there. We treat them like kids. And before you know it, like they just come around, their eyes light up, and they just act like a normal kid. And so I want to say that because the work that you do, the donations that you make going to these charities, they really matter. They really matter. And so just really proud to be a part of that. And so if you guys, if you're here and you're able to donate, please do use the QR code there, and all the money is going to go to the charity for the Caring for Kids. So with that, I thought I'd a little wrinkle in it. I was like, normally the last few years we've done a little dinner, and me and Al have said a few things. And I was like, why don't we have somebody that has had an experience at this event, with this event, come up and share a little bit of that experience. And so I called my buddy Jeff Hatch, and I said, hey Jeff, this was a real impactful event for you last year. Would you mind coming and sharing a little bit about that experience and just a little bit about himself and his journey? He was like, yeah, I'll do that. So I'm gonna shut up now. I'm gonna let Jeff come do it and do the talking. Thanks, Jeff, come on up.
Evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Hatch. I'm going to give you my bio on the front end just to wallop you guys. I graduated from an Ivy League school with a triple major. I did play in the NFL for 4 years. I've won the President's Award for Community Service, and I am also a federal felon as a result of my substance use disorder. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I do want to say this on the front end. I want to thank Glenn and Jessica Hadley for having me. I want to thank Al Smith for setting this up, the NFL Alumni Tennessee chapter, all the sponsors, Kipu, JG Healthcare, all the people involved with putting this on. It's a really cool event. And Glenn talked about a little bit of why this is impactful for me. And I will tell you guys, I'm going to tell you some of my story. And the reason I do it, give you some statistics, okay? In the United States of America, where we are, 33% of the American adult population struggles with either a mental health issue, substance use disorder, or both. Of those that have a mental health issue, only half of them get the treatment they need. Thank you. And of those with substance use disorder, 1 in 5, 20% get the help that they need. And if you ask me why that is, there's a multitude of reasons, but one of the primary ones is stigma. We still have so much stigma attached to these behavioral health care issues. If I broke my leg, I would feel no shame in going and getting care for that. But because these issues are internal, we tend to pocket them in a place of shame. And so I'd like to share my story with as much vulnerability, transparency, and honesty as I can, in the hopes that if you or somebody you care about is facing an issue like this in the future, you think about this night and you approach it with a little more patience, maybe a little more compassion, and a little more understanding, because we need it. We need it. When we came here last year, I had spent the vast part of the 20 years since I retired from the NFL away from the game. Part of that was because of the shame around my personal life. Another part of it was because I felt like I didn't play long enough or have a good enough career to feel like I was among my brothers, right? And I came to this event with Luke last year. I also need to shout out Eagle Creek. I work for these guys, Eagle Creek Range Recovery out in Idaho. Luke's one of the co-owners along with this guy, Andrew Maloof. And boy, you want to talk about a special place. They fully support me doing things like this. I can't ask for more than that. And it's a really special program. So if you do have somebody who's struggling with substance use disorder and it's a male, you can't do better than to go there. Plug. We came here and it was this event, this exact night, the dinner last year. And I was surrounded by some other former players. And the conversation got going, and I heard them echoing the exact same sentiments I held privately for 20 years. I was talking to a guy who was a first-round draft pick and played for 10 years. He started 160 games, and he was going, yeah, man, I don't really talk about it much. It was kind of a disappointment. You know, I didn't play as long as I would have liked. I'm like, what? You know, and what I started realizing is we're the kind of people that if we don't put on a gold jacket and walk into the doors of the Hall of Fame, it was a disappointment. And how crazy that is. So I cannot express to you the difference that has made in my path forward from last year to now. I have been able to extend my hand to some other former players in a way that I wouldn't have had I not had that experience. And so I'm eternally grateful for that. I really am. Just to kind of give you the background on my bio, right? I don't know in a room like this what people's perceptions of people that would be considered someone with addiction issues would be. I don't. I'm used to talking, honestly, I'm used to being in rooms of 12-step fellowships or in rooms of like therapists and practitioners, right? So I want to start by saying I grew up in a good home. My parents were together from the time they were 15 years old. My dad was an Army intelligence officer and a computer scientist for NSA. My mother was an Army nurse. I have an older sister who's got 6 children, married to a former police officer. Her oldest is 22, her youngest is 2. She's crazy. She runs a farm in Virginia and she runs a horse ministry out of it, you know? And I never questioned growing up whether I was loved or not. I knew. I will tell you though, there was a cloud all the time. And it wasn't named in my house, but it was there. And that cloud was alcoholism. My father suffered from alcoholism. We never spoke about it. He never got help for it. It was just there. And so when I was growing up, what I recognized very early, and I'm speaking to a lot of guys in this room who I think had similar experiences to me, I learned that if I performed well, I was validated. And not only was I validated, but the people I love were validated too. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to be the best because that's the way I am seen. And so I went for that. I will tell you also, at 13 years old, I made varsity basketball. I was a freshman in high school, made varsity basketball, get to hang out with all the older guys. All of a sudden I'm cool. They take me to a party and I get my first drink of alcohol. And I'll never forget, man, that alcohol hit my system. And they say something to those of us that are in recovery in that world. They say we are bodily and mentally different from our fellows. And what that means is when that drink hit my body, I immediately felt the solution to the problem of me that I've been dealing with for the first 13 years of my life. I didn't care what you thought about me anymore. I was cool. I was good looking. I liked myself. The committee in my head got quiet. And I realized in that moment, oh, this is what I've been looking for. But I was also clever enough to know that that was not a long-term solution to the problem with me. And so at that same time, I thought to myself, you know what, Jeff? You're going to do this, but soon enough, you're going to achieve enough stuff and things that you're going to like yourself. And then it's all going to change. And so that's what I set about doing, you know? And I'm going to fast forward in my story to being 22 years old. It's my rookie year in the NFL. I was a third-round pick, signed my $1 million contract. I graduated from Penn with a triple major, won that President's Award for Community Service, had my Navigator with 24s on it. All the stuff that I grew up watching MTV, seeing everyone that I thought, oh, that's what happiness is. And I had achieved all this stuff, and I still hated myself. And I went, now what? Now what do I do? Do I just push on and see what happens? Yeah, that's what I did, because that's all I knew to do. You know, my career was not long or good. I hurt my back my rookie year, was on injured reserve, got addicted to pain pills, and I spent the next 4 years, the entirety of my NFL career, really hiding, fighting to try and stay in the league, fighting to try and stay sober for a day, scared to death to tell you what was happening. Scared to death. I'm going to tell you how deep that fear went for me. There were a couple times where I tried to detox myself in the off season. Typically, I'd be home with my family when I was doing that. And I ended up having grand mal seizures, multiple times. And after the second round of those grand mal seizures, they took me to the hospital, and they sent me to a neurologist. And I come home and I do this little test. They put these diodes all over your head because they think I'm probably epileptic. I'm detoxing, okay? But I'm not going to tell you that. So I go through this test. Sure enough, they diagnose me epileptic. They put me on a drug called Depakote. They take my license. I can't drive for 6 months. And I am 100% fine with all that, as long as it protects my secret. It's like that, you know? So at 26 years old, I retired from the NFL with a spinal fusion. And I was really done at that point. I know y'all know that experience, right? When you hang up the helmet, boy, it's a whole new world for us. It is hard. And I'll tell you something, I was lucky. And I was lucky because my drug addiction was bad enough that I had already been in the NFL substance abuse program. And so when I overdosed 2 months after I retired, the doctor I was seeing from that NFL substance abuse program came and saw me and sent me to treatment. That was in 2006. Changed my life. Changed my life. I had purpose, I had identity again, I was a man in recovery. I went to work in that field, and I've spent the better part of the past 20 years working in behavioral health care as a result of that. But it didn't stick. After about 5 years, I got complacent. I kind of started thinking I had things figured out. I decided I wanted to go to graduate school, so I moved out to LA. And if you're a guy who's 6'7", and at that point I was probably still 290, good athlete, I could still move better than I can now at that point. The next thing you know, I'm doing stunts in movies and TV. Yeah. Yeah. If you ever watch the movie R.I.P.D., you won't know it's me because I was wearing a 60-pound fat suit and it's CGI. But I stunt double a guy running up a building, break through a glass wall, run over 3 people, rip open an elevator shaft and fall 30 feet down the elevator shaft. That's me. And there was some stuff like that along the way. And I only share that because what ended up happening was I ended up getting hurt again. I hurt my knee really bad. And I ended up having to get a total knee replacement on my right knee. And what is the fear for any of us that have struggled with opiates? Do not let me get a surgery that's going to require me to go on pain pills. But I thought I had it figured out. You know, I thought I had the thing licked and I thought I was okay. When I woke up from that surgery and I clicked that button, boy, You know, the best way I can describe it to someone who doesn't understand it is if you've seen that movie Venom, where that thing monster comes out and takes over control of that guy, man, that's what it's like. You know? I'm no longer there. I am a vessel that is supporting a drug addiction. And that's what happened. And it was a slow bleed for me, okay? It didn't happen fast. What happens first is I go home on the pain pills. Then I go, that's not strong enough. They put me on fentanyl patches. I spent the next 2 years on those fentanyl patches. I moved up to New Hampshire and started working in treatment again. Telling myself the story. It's okay for me to do this because I have chronic pain. I'm justified. I have a spinal fusion. I have a total knee replacement. I played in the NFL. I did stunt work in movies and TV. Y'all can't really tell me anything about what my body's like. Wow. I don't get to make those kind of decisions, I'll tell you what. That was about 2 years. After about 2 years, my mind starts tripping on me and starts going, you know, man, I'm tired of making this drive. I was driving 16 hours round trip once a month to Maryland where I got into surgery to fill that prescription because I didn't want anybody up in New Hampshire to know what I was doing. I said, you know what, I bet you if I go out my door, my apartment, I could probably find some heroin pretty easy. And that heroin will probably do exactly what this fentanyl patch is doing. So I'm gonna do that. In short order, I'm spending all my money at the dope dealers. I'm working in treatment. Total double life. And when I don't have any more money to buy, and that guy says to me, hey Jeff, if you'll drive down the highway 4 exits and pick my load up and bring it back to me, I'll give you your personal use amount for free. That makes good sense. And now I'm trafficking heroin. 2017, September 17th, across the border from Massachusetts into New Hampshire. I see an unmarked car in the middle of the highway and I go, that's weird. Let me get off and take the back road home. I get off the exit on the back road and the next thing I knew there's 2 stadies behind me. And my entire life got really real really fast. Next thing you know, I'm part of a federal investigation. Well, let me tell you this, my sobriety date is September 18th of 2017. That morning when I woke up, there was a knock at my door. And when I opened that door, it was the DEA, the FBI, and the New Hampshire State Police. Hello. Hello. And things got really real for me, you know. I spent the next 4.5 years waiting for that to resolve. So from the day I got arrested to the day I got sentenced was 4.5 years of waking up every single day wondering whether I was going to find out the next day that I was going to federal prison. I was lucky that some things happened in the middle there. COVID happened, so it extended the case. And as a result of that, I had more time to stay sober, more time to get tested under their protocols, more time to show that I was doing the next right thing. And so when I went to my sentencing, reluctantly, the judge agreed to put me on 3 years probation and I'd have to go to prison. I'm happy to tell you guys that that probation ended 1.5 years early because they were like, you're obviously okay now, right? Because I will tell you this, I can't predict the future, but I can tell you today that you are not going to find me anywhere near a drink or a drug, okay? I'm not touching that life anymore. I got enough of it, you know? And I want to tell you a little thing before I close up here. You know, I was 6 months sober again, and I was going back into the 12-step meetings that I go to. I saw a beautiful woman across the way. And I said, I want to know who that is. And we met. I had to convince her to hang out with me, you know, of course. We met. We fell in love. In the midst of us falling in love, though, I'm part of this federal investigation. And the stipulations of that were I couldn't tell anybody, I couldn't change anything in my life, and I couldn't drink or drug. Any of those 3 things would trigger immediate arrest. So as I fall in love with this woman unexpectedly, she doesn't know anything about what's happening. 1.5 years into our relationship, it's July of 2019. I don't know why things like this happen in my life, but it so happened that the Vice President of the United States, at that time it was Mike Pence, was going to come visit the treatment center I worked at to give a speech. That's not a good look for somebody who's in an active federal investigation. You don't want the Vice President around. So the day of the event, everyone's there. It seems like it's going to go off fine. And about 30 minutes before he's supposed to come, they come out and they say, "We're so sorry the vice president's had to cancel the trip." And immediately I'm like, oh no. You know, but I had an attorney at that point. I called him and I said, "Chuck, do you think?" He said, "Jeff, there's no way." The detective who led the investigation into me for the New Hampshire State Police became one of my closest confidants. I sat down with that man and explained the disease model of addiction to him. He got to know me and he became a huge support to me. So I called him up. I said, "Steve, what do you think?" He said, "There's no way." And sure enough, it was. The DEA had called him on the plane and said, "You can't go talk there. We're about to charge the dude who works there with trafficking." So they turned the plane around. So when that went public, and they were able to tie the fact that this vice president trip cancellation was related to a former NFL player who was working in treatment and trafficking heroin, you know it was on CNN. It was in the New York Times. It was everywhere. And I don't share that, I promise you guys, I don't share that with any pride at all. But I share it with you so you understand the weight of what I had to walk through. What I still have to walk through, right? Because any room I go into, anybody I meet, when they ask me my name and they Google me, what's one of the top 10 things that comes up? Heroin trafficker. I'm proud. I'm not scared of it. It doesn't keep me from doing anything or going anywhere or being anybody that I want to be. I'm going to tell you, it really freed me from judgment. When the worst thing you've ever done is on the front page of Google, you don't really care that much anymore. Be honest. Let me get back to that woman. That day that those charges became public was the day I sat her down on the couch a year and a half into the relationship and said, "I need to tell you something. I haven't been sober for as long as you think I have, and I'm getting charged with a federal felony today. And if you want to go, I totally understand." And I don't know how that woman had the fortitude and resilience and strength to sit there and say she was going to stick around. But I am eternally grateful that she did. You know, she would be okay with me sharing with you guys that she's been sober for 12 and a half years, you know? And so she knew the world I was coming from, and she knew the things I had done, and she knew plenty of other felons. Heck, she's a state felon. She stayed, you know, and that meant everything. Because my life did get torched. I'm talking about to the point that the guy who mowed my lawn called me up and said, "I'm not mowing your yard anymore, bro." I was like, wow, I really did burn it. You know? But I say all that to say this. All I have to do is continue walking my walk and doing the next right thing, and life has gotten really, really good again. You know, that woman and I moved down to Savannah, Georgia together. She stayed with me when that sentencing happened, and I didn't have to go to prison. She said, "We're moving to the Pacific Northwest." I said, "Yes, ma'am, we'll go wherever you want." We moved out to Washington State. We got married in October of 2023, and we welcomed our daughter in September of this past year. I'm an old dad, you know what I'm saying? I had my first kid at 45. Y'all should have told me not to do that, I'll be honest. But I will tell you, you know, things get slowed down when you have an open federal case. The timeline shifts a little bit, you know? But I'm so grateful to be able to stand here before you guys today and tell you my story, be as vulnerable and honest and transparent as I can be, look you in the eyes and tell you my truth, and say that if you or anybody you care about is struggling with any issues like this, man, my phone is always on. Luke's phone is always on. We are here for that. That is what I have been called to do. It's what I was called to do before I ever stepped on a football field. I just didn't know it. So I cannot thank you guys enough for the opportunity to speak to this room. I've been looking forward to this since Glenn asked me to come do it. And I'm just so grateful you guys were as attentive and cared as much as you did. And I thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.